Hello again, MennoNerds. It's me again. I think it's my turn right now. So here I am. I have been really enjoying all the things that we've been saying about stories, but you know what? Everyone's been saying it. I think that goes without saying. I really appreciate the stories that have been told, the stories that are being told, and the stories that are being referenced. One thing that I've noticed, though, all the stories that we're talking about has something to do with stories that have been told from the context of someone who already is a Christian. They are told by Christians, about Christians, to other Christians, primarily as inspiration for Christians to continue to do what Christians do in the face of persecution and trials. We've had stories like from William about a missionary who gave a different witness and a different testimony as to what it means to live against the grain in a different country and a different culture, and to really stand up for a pacifist, peace-loving point of view. We've referenced stories from Scripture, which again, these are stories that are told by the people of God to the people of God as instruction and inspiration. But there's one set of stories that I don't think we've talked about yet. Stories that everybody else tells. Specifically those people that do not self-identify as being followers of Jesus. They may like Jesus, they may like the stories of Jesus, but they themselves do not self-identify as followers of Jesus. And I think it's important, though, that we spend a moment to think about that. What stories are they telling? How are they telling those stories? What's the medium by which they are telling those stories? The format in which those stories are being told. In order to be able to take our story and relay it to them, we need to have some way of being able to find where those stories intersect. How does my story of growing up Christian, growing up Mennonite, having certain life events and certain impacts of different people on my life, and how does that story intersect with, say, my neighbor who doesn't have the same background and is not self-identifying as a follower of Christ? Where do our stories intersect? How can I have any kind of conversation with him or her or them if there is no intersection of story? Something that we need to think about as believers and followers of Christ. I have some ideas about these kinds of stories. I have some ideas about which stories to listen to. Stories that are told these days are not necessarily stories that are written down in books. People still read books, but the primary story medium that people are using these days is YouTube, movies, TV, being used by people to tell their stories about how they view the world to everybody else. So if we want to be able to understand these other stories, maybe we need to spend some time listening to the storytellers that they choose to use. How do we find those storytellers? Which storytellers do we listen to? Which people do we go to be able to understand their stories? Once we have these answers, then maybe we can actually get into a kind of conversation about making those intersections. Until we know what stories to listen to and how to listen to them, we can't be effective in being able to relay our stories to other people. This is my thought to kind of contribute to this conversation. What stories do we need to listen to, and where are they found, and where are they coming from? Maybe you guys have some ideas. Maybe there's a favorite story that you've listened to where you can find an intersection between the story of Christ and the story of God with the story that the world tells. I would like to hear from you. Until next time.